Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my Cardfight Vanguard Great Nature Standard deck profile for Post the Mysterious Fortune. Prior to my budget deck profile for Great Nature, I did want to make a full version of the new Great Nature support that focuses on the new Holy Great Sage of Black Shadows Isabel, also the main avatar unit of Eska from the Shinamon series. It's a really interesting deck. It still focuses on the mechanic for Great Nature, which is milling the top card of your deck, and then have different effects based on the type of unit you mill, whether it's a normal unit or a trigger unit. I am missing a few cards for the deck. It's not a deck I'm actually looking to build. I just wanted to make the deck profile so you can all see my take on the deck. So I'll show what cards, the main ones being Binoculus Tiger and Leopold, that I'm missing for the main part of the deck, and what cards I would replace for them if I were to add them in to the deck. But aside from that, let's go ahead and get started with the profile. So to start off, for the grade 3s, I want to run 4 of the Holy Great Sage of Black Shadows Isabel. Only got 2, but like I said, I'm not looking to finish the deck. So I have 2 Armed Instructor Bison in here just to fill in the spot. On Vanguard, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you perform both of the effects. For the perform one of the effects for this card. So very, very powerful skill there for sure. On Vanguard or rear, when placed, Soul Blast 1, put the top card of your deck into your drop zone and perform one of the effects below depending on that card's type. So you'll get both the effects. Remember, if both of your Vanguard and your opponents are grade 3 or greater. So with the normal unit, this unit gets plus 15 until end of turn. And if it's a trigger unit, return the card put from your deck into the drop zone by this effect into your hand. So you just have more options to get cards, along with the fact that you'll use Imaginary Gift Excel, whether you use 1 or 2, mostly up to the player at that point. I usually do like to go for Excel 2, so I'll have the power options with Isabel herself, but the draw power you can get with the Excel marker along with Isabel as well. Definitely does come in handy just for overall pressure and hand consistency, plus giving the plus 15,000 to this unit helps. You don't have to have a boost for it either, and it works on Vanguard or rear, and being able to use both, like I said, depending on the unit you reveal, is very helpful as well. I have the Armed Instructor Bison in here. It's just a plus 5, and then when it's on the Vanguard, it stands a rear guard when it attacks for an easy counterblast. It has the Imaginary Gift Excel marker. I would say just a good backup for the Isabel spot in the deck. And then for the backup grade 3, I run 4 Daring Scientists Mari Martin. This was the main grade 3 unit I used in the deck for the budget Great Nature, but I still find it as a great backup for the actual version for Great Nature. On Vanguard or rear, when placed, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, put the top card of your deck into your drop zone and perform one of the effects below, depending on that card's type. And also, it works great for the rear guard effect as well, since with Isabel on your Vanguard, you'll be able to perform both the effects for Mari Martin as well, getting that pressure for all of your units for that skill. With this one, when placed, you perform one of the effects. If it's a normal unit, your opponent cannot intercept until end of turn. If it's a trigger unit, retire all of your opponent's rear guards in the same column as this. So not having to rely on Mari Martin as your main grade 3 Vanguard, focusing on Isabel being your main grade 3 to go for means that you can rely on this as a rear guard retire unit, since you'll get both of them when you have Isabel on your Vanguard circle. So remember that as well. This would be a spot I might swap for Leopold if you have the Leopold, and then just running Leopold with Isabel together. Completely up to the player preference there, but Mari Martin, just a good option as well if you're just mostly getting from this booster set and you didn't want to have to invest too much into the old one for cards like Leopold. I'd still say the card works pretty well as a backup grade 3. And then finally, just to have a 10 grade 3 lineup, I run 2 Pencil Hamden. Now, if I had the 4 full Isabels, I would actually put in the 4 Isabels here. And instead of this spot being Hamden, it would be 2 Bison for the last grade 3 spot as a backup. Just for the fact that Hamden works a little bit better in the Hamsuke deck, but still pressure enough late game, since you'll have the 2 XL circles most of the time with all the rides you can do with the different grade 3s we run in the deck as well, but still good backup for the draw power also if you have 2 or more additional rear guards with this card. And that is it for the grade 3s. We'll now move on to the grade 2s. I want to run 4 Scientists of Black Sheen, Mathilda. Now, note the Geograph Giant for the proxy spots for the grade 2 lineup that I'm missing for the deck, but Scientists of Black Sheen Mathilda has the drop effect as well. For the unit on Vanguard or Rear, when placed, counter +1, put the top card of your deck into your drop zone and perform one of the effects below depending on that card's type. If it's a normal unit, until the end of this turn, when your opponent would call cards from hand to guard for that battle of this unit attack, he or she must call 2 or more at the same time. So early game pressure especially, but if it's a trigger unit, this unit gets a critical +1 until end of turn. So meaning, you know, obviously if you go through the trigger unit you would have preferred to have gotten off of this card's skill, you can just then get the additional critical for Mathilda and then have to rely on the other skill, meaning that your opponent have to drop more cards down for that pressure in, you know, and obviously go for the trigger unit that hopefully you didn't mill for the first one as well. The Geograph is just, like I said, a spot filler. Its effect is if it's on additional rear, it gets +8. It's just a power spot, but I definitely want to run 4 Mathilda for this final area there. And the same goes for Hamsuke's rival, Red and Blue Pencil, Hamhiko. Now, this would also be potentially a spot for Binoculus Tiger if you have the card with Hamsuke's rival, Red and Blue Pencil, Hamhiko. When placed, counter +1, soul +1, look at 2 cards on top of your deck, put 1 from among them into your hand, put 1 card from among them into the drop zone, and on Vanguard or Rear once per turn, when your card is put from the deck into the drop zone, you may have this unit get +5. So it's a pressure kind of card, just being able to add cards to your hand as well for a Counter Blast and Soul Blast. It could be a Binoculus spot. If you didn't want to have this spot be the Binoculus Tiger spot, you can have the last one be for the Observation Scribe Snake Will. Once per turn when your Vanguard attacks, if your card was put in from the deck into the drop zone this turn, counter +1, stand this unit, which happens more than enough with all the different cards we have, including Marty Martin and Isabel, and also Mathilda as well, for all the effects to restand this card for the pressure. One thing I might try out is swapping the number of Hamhikos to 3, and then for the 4 spot, having 4 of these spots in the deck be Binoculus Tiger. So these 2 spots here would be Binoculus Tiger, and the last 3 spots would be Hamhiko for that lineup as well. And that is it for the grade 2s. When I move on to the grade 1s, I want to run 4 Prober of Black Jet Cecile. Just have the 1 Solution Tenric in for the final spot for this grade 1. On Vanguard or Rear, when placed, Soul Blast 1, put the top card of your deck in your drop zone. Perform one of the following effects, depending on the card's type. If it's a normal unit, Soul Charge 1, and this unit gets +5 until end of turn. If it's a trigger unit, draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards from your hand. So it helps to go through the deck quicker if you need some specific cards, and it's a great ride target as well, for the fact that this card works on Vanguard or Rear. Just for the Soul Blast with our starter being the when road upon draw a card, not having Forerunner like the old cards in Premium, you'll have the card to Soul Blast as well, and then if it's a normal unit, you'll Soul Charge it back and then give this card additional power as well. But both effects, I'd say, are definitely useful for that. One making up the Soul for some of your other cards, the other one just not even using the Soul and then just giving you draw and discard to get through maybe some cards you have too many copies of in your hand if you're trying to get to a grade 2 or grade 3. And I also run 4 Monoculus Tiger with this one. When it attacks or boosts a rear guard, Soul Blast 1, put the top card of your deck into your drop zone and perform one of the effects below depending on that card's type. A normal unit, your opponent cannot call Sentinels from his or her hand until the end of that battle, which is great for pressure, being able to stop a lot of your opponent's cards with this one. And on the trigger unit, your opponent can only call trigger units from his or her hand until the end of that battle. So it has to boost a rear guard, remember that, so it can't help with the Vanguard, but you should have plenty of other ones. Even if it's on the additional rearguard circle, it works when it attacks or when it boosts, so you have that to look forward to with this card. I really do like Monoculus Tiger. It was definitely an easier card to get a hold of than Binoculus Tiger, which I would also recommend running in the deck if you have them. If not, there are other spots that can be filled in for that card in the deck as well. But plenty of pressure with this one, whether it be for Sentinels or just the trigger unit restriction, depending on what you use with this card. And then to finish off the grade 1s, I run 4 Scale Toucan when placed from hand, Soul Blast 1 on the rear, and return one of your other rear guards to your hand. So just great for some of the other units that have a when placed skill, like Mathilda, to reuse again. And on Vanguard or rear, once per turn, when your card is put from the deck into the drop zone, you may have this unit get +5 until end of turn, just like Hamhiko. 4 pressure for the +5, very, very useful. It's a once per turn, but still enough to hit some high numbers against your opponent if they're going up against the grade 3 alone, while this card's on additional rear guard circle, which gets the power as well, so very, very useful there. And then for the trigger, for the grade 0s, after the grade 1s, for the starter, I run Jet Ink Fox. Just when wrote upon, draw a card, the generic effect, like all the starters in the game. And then for the trigger lineup, I decided to go with 8 critical for this deck. With it 4 Ruler Chameleon and 4 Sensor Mill Galago. Just the pressure with the criticals alone. With the restrictions, definitely does come in handy. The front triggers, I would say, are not as needed. You don't need big, big power numbers for this deck, so just relying on the 8 critical is fine. And I also run the 4 Cable Sheet, being the Sentinel of choice for the deck. I don't really like the grade 1 one. I like to keep the grade 1 spot open for other usable ones in the deck. And finally, for Dictionary Goat for the heal trigger to finish off the deck. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. I definitely want to look to build the final budget and standard builds for Gold Paladin from the Mysterious Fortune set to finish off the set before we move on to Bermuda Triangle. I'll definitely try and get those done before the set comes out. But until then, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Qualia out.